Guys, welcome back to the Scoring from the 50 podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Will from Saturday's Best Sports. How you doing, man?
Hey man, I'm doing great. How are you? Happy to be here. Thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
man. Yeah, really excited to have you on here. I know it's been in the works for a little bit, but yeah, just saw your stuff. You got a lot of stuff going on. I'm really happy to have you on. But
Yeah, man.
let's get right into this conversation, man. So
Yeah.
let's just start. What made you fall in love with college football and college athletics in general?
Um, I'm very, going to Clemson, college football, college basketball, it's a big thing here. Turning more into a basketball school at the moment. But I have a very big passion for college sports, always have. That's the main, that's what I do for my content usually, just college football, college basketball. I'm not as big into professional sports as I used to be. But I don't know, the atmosphere is just great. There's just so much more news now with the transfer portal, NIL. There's so much to talk about. It's kind of there's a fine line. You don't really know what's going on with the NCAA, so
Yeah, for sure.
it's all
It feels like
it's all
everything changes every
yeah,
like 5 seconds.
exactly, yeah. So I'm just very passionate. I've always been a big college football guy, college basketball, especially that was my sport growing up, basketball. Yeah, just getting to talk about both of those is great. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I grew up loving it. My uncle was a big Michigan fan, so I'm a huge
Okay.
Michigan fan, and that's how I got into it. And then
Yeah.
around my sophomore year of high school, I don't know what it was about it, but I followed Michigan was really good that year, so I started following them, and then I started
Yeah.
watching other games around the country, and I just instantly fell in love with it. The
Yeah.
atmospheres, the tradition, the fans, everything
Oh, it's
about it was
fantastic.
amazing.
Yeah,
I
they have a
instantly fell in love with it.
great football program. They got Kyle Whittingham in there now. It's a
Yeah,
big time hire. I'm excited for that. And then their basketball's fantastic.
oh yeah,
They
Dusty May's on fire right now,
Yeah,
man.
he's on fire. Just beat Michigan State on the road, and they had
Oh
just
yeah.
come off a big win against Nebraska. So they're on fire. I think they're the best team in the Big Ten, in my opinion.
That's my opinion. I think we're the best team in the country, honestly, but
Yeah,
that's just,
yeah,
my unbiased thoughts.
yeah. It's crazy because they've had a couple close ones, but when they're on it. They're on it. Like they'll drop 50 on you, and they'll. It's
Yeah, no, it's
it's
been great to watch, man.
it's
It's been really
yeah,
exciting after the Jawan Howard years, man. That got a little rough there for a bit.
yeah. Got a
But for
little
sure,
rough.
definitely
Yeah,
Dusty May. I'm really liking him, that's for sure.
yeah. It's awesome.
Well, I guess that kind of leads me into another question I had. It's like, what's your favorite coaching hire from this last cycle of the coaching carousel?
Well, what we were talking about previously, I'm a big Kyle Whittingham guy. I think what he had at Utah was special. But I just don't think he really had the resources and the funds to kind of compete with these other top tier schools like Texas Tech, for example. They got that oil money going on there. Um, I think Michigan's a big opportunity. He took some guys from Utah going to Michigan that were key defensive and offensive guys and some high school commits. And I don't know, they took their offensive coordinator. He's going there too. They I don't know, just a lot of opportunity for him there. I'm really excited. I think
Yeah.
he can really make some noise with Bryce Underwood. I think he was kind of underutilized with Sharon Moore, and they didn't really use him passing. It was a lot of running. Like I noticed that especially in the Texas game, like in the Citrus Bowl, they didn't really. I don't know. He's just got a lot of potential. I think Kyle Whittingham's going to do something special with him next
Yeah,
year.
no, for sure. I really like what Kyle Whittingham's building. I know I didn't put Kyle Whittingham as my answer because
Yeah,
I'm a little biased, but no, I
yeah,
like a lot what John Henry
yeah,
Daly coming in from Utah. Man, he's going to be really good. I mean,
yep,
got the BYU defensive coordinator, offensive
yep,
coordinator.
yep.
Did you know that we didn't have a quarterbacks coach for Bryce Underwood last year?
Really,
Yeah, we
I
didn't have
actually
a
didn't know
quarterbacks
that.
coach. Like we
Wow,
just didn't
that's
have one. It was just I think it was Chip Lindsey, the offensive coordinator, was like kind of doing a little bit of
okay.
it, but we didn't have like a quarterback centric quarterback coach last year for
Yeah,
the number one recruit in the country. We just decided to
that
not develop it.
especially since they paid him so much money, they can't have someone to to kind of help. I don't know. That's kind of crazy to me. Wow, I didn't
Yeah,
even know
no,
that.
it was insane. I heard that like a month or so, like a few weeks after Moore got fired. I think Kyle Whittingham went on a podcast with Urban Meyer or something like that, and
Yeah,
he explained that they didn't have a quarterbacks coach last year. It was blasphemy, absolute blasphemy.
wow, that's crazy. Yeah, I did want to mention a couple of I'm a big Eric Morris guy from North Texas. I think Oklahoma State's gonna have some firepower offensively and defense. Like he took a lot of guys from North Texas that were their best players, like like Drew Mestamaker, Caleb Hawkins, Wyatt Young, uh, Justin Bowick from Illinois. They took a lot of guys. I think they're going to be a team to watch in the Big 12 for sure. I'm also a big Will Stein guy. I think he's kind of building something at Kentucky too. They seem to have a lot of money, and he got Kenny Minchie from Notre Dame. That was a massive commitment flip from Nebraska.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can't believe that we're now committing places and flipping in the transfer portal.
Yeah,
That stuff's insane. But yeah, no,
yeah,
I really like Oklahoma State too with Eric Morris. I know Caleb Hawkins. He was insane at North Texas last year.
yeah,
He was like top five in yards and
yeah. He
touchdowns
was
last
he
year.
was electric, dude. Had almost like 2,000 rushing yards, over 20 touchdowns. He's legit. He's gonna have a
Yeah,
big year at Oklahoma State, I think.
yeah, and it'll be really nice with everyone coming over. There's a lot of continuity there with the head coach and everything. They know the system. I really like what Oklahoma State's doing right now. I can bet with a little bit of certainty that they're going to be better than 2-10.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know if they'll make the playoff. That's a little bit of a bold prediction going into next year, I guess. But I think they're going to have a solid year, and Mestamaker's going to go off for Eric Morris at Oklahoma State. He's a very good player. So
Yeah, for sure. No, I really like Alex Golesh at Auburn, though. He brought
yeah,
Byron Brown from
yep,
South Florida last year. I think
yep.
they're going to be really good. I like what he's building. Do you know he's from Russia?
Really, he's from Russia. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he like escaped like communist Russia whenever he's a kid, I think.
Wow.
It's crazy stuff. I don't know. I like what he's building, though. I think he's got the right mentality. I think he's
Yeah,
going to be a really good
yeah. I
Auburn.
mean, he's a solid coach. I think they're going to be. They took a lot of guys from USF, kind of like Eric Morris's situation. And Auburn did lose a lot of guys, though. They lost Cam Coleman, Eric Singleton to the draft, Deuce Knight, a lot of other receivers and defensive players. But I think bringing a bunch of talent from USF and getting some other guys. I think, yeah, Byron Brown, he's a very like comparable guy to like Cam Newton. I feel like just the
Yeah,
frame and the size and the speed. I don't know. He might be a little faster than Cam. I don't know, but
yeah. No, I like him a lot. I think he's going to do great things there.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
for
agree.
sure. No, Auburn, I think it's not necessarily like a year one type of thing, like a Kurt Signetti type of rebuild. But I think
Yeah,
after a few years, and hopefully Auburn can have a little bit of patience with him, I think he's going to be pretty good
yeah,
there in a little bit.
yeah. I agree. I know. Byron Brown's got 1 year there, given his eligibility status. But I think he's Alex Golish is going to set the standard there. I think.
Yeah, no, I think he's
I'm
going
pretty
to turn it
excited.
around a lot. Well, speaking of Indiana,
Yeah,
man, I'm kind of curious on your thoughts on this. What do you think the impact of Indiana winning the national championship has on some of these smaller schools like a Purdue or teams like that? Do you think that they have a shot now in this new age of college football?
yeah, absolutely. I just think the current landscape of college football is totally different now with the NIL and the portal. Indiana, when they got Signetti, they brought in a bunch of guys from James Madison, like Pons out at corner, guys like that, Surratt at receiver. And, just they have a lot of money. They can bring in a bunch of different guys. We saw that this portal cycle, they brought in a bunch of guys, they reloaded. So, teams like Vanderbilt, they're going to be good next year too. Like, I just think the money and, if you have a pretty credible coach, it makes it a lot easier. But, the portal, it's totally changed the landscape of college football. Like anyone in division power four that has some money can get some guys. I think they're in a good situation to do well.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, I think it's going to be really tough going forward. Like, it's not going to be. Kirsten made it look easy, right? It doesn't. I think it's going to take a
Yeah,
little bit. It takes having the best coach in the country, and then also having guys that translate from your old school
yeah,
to your new school. If you want to turn around that
right.
fast, and I think it
Hmm.
does make it a little bit harder. Like I just talked about with Alex Golish, like teams are gonna have to have more patience because a lot of teams are gonna look at that and be like, well, why aren't we doing that? Why
Yeah,
aren't we turning it around in 2 years like Indiana did? And I think it's going to cause a lot of coaches to get fired a lot faster.
yeah. That I will say that is a problem. Penn State had James Franklin for a long time. He people could say all they want that he didn't win the big game, but I know he's been there for a while, but that's one high coach that I don't think should have been fired, but they got Matt Campbell as a pretty good replacement. But
Right,
yeah,
who
I
like
just yeah,
50th
patience.
shot in the dark. Yeah.
But yeah, patience is definitely key in this new era. I think you got to give him a couple years, like kind of see how it goes because the
Yeah,
portal
they got to
just
get their
changes
guys
everything.
in there. Yeah.
I just yeah, it's crazy because like a team like Oklahoma State or Iowa State, even you lose your whole roster and you got to rebuild. Like it's like how are you supposed to expect like a natty or playoff team when you're losing your whole squad and you got a new group of guys coming in you got to get used to, and it's just it's crazy. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean Iowa State. I mean they lost like what 50 guys to the portal, and like
Yeah,
30 or 40 of them are just going to Penn State alone. Like
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
like that's an impossible situation. It's not Iowa State's fault at all. That's just how college football is set up right now, and you can't
yeah,
fault Matt Campbell for doing that either. That's how
yeah,
like he's just playing the game that he needs to play to go win football games at Penn State.
yeah.
But
He's just playing the
man,
game.
especially I don't like Penn State had like two guys coming in this high school recruiting class, and it's just not where they want to be. So I mean, he had to
Yeah,
get those kind of guys from Iowa State, but man, it's going to be tough for sure.
yeah, yeah. I don't know, man. It's a crazy era we're in, but it's very exciting. Like it's very there's a lot of news all the time. That's what I love
Yeah,
about
no,
it.
everything's
Yeah,
changing constantly, and it's kind of nice. Like I know a lot of my friends, whenever I would talk to them in the four-team era, like they would talk about, well, it's not, it's just the same teams every year. Doesn't it? Like it's everything's the
right,
same. You don't want the same guys. It's we want parity. Well,
right.
it's nice to like with the 12 team combined with NIL and all these coaches moving and everything. It's nice to be like anyone could win at any moment. You know what I mean? Like there's teams that can pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, yeah. I mean, we saw that with Indiana. Vanderbilt was another team no one expected to be, I would say, this good. 10-win season for them is crazy. Like, Georgia Tech is another team that has been like was under the radar. They didn't finish the way they wanted, but they had a pretty solid year. Yeah, there's just a lot more parity going on. It's that's what I like about the portal. It just kind of opens up a bunch of other opportunities rather than the same teams like Georgia, Alabama, you know, old Clemson, LSU. Like just op- opens it all up. It's great.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great thing. And I mean, Georgia Tech, you just mentioned, they paid Justice Haynes like $2 million to go there. Like they have
That's a
money. Everyone who has any sort of money can go win big now.
Yeah, it's a massive pickup for Georgia Tech. That guy Haynes is the real deal.
Yeah, no, the little bit that he was healthy there at Michigan, I was watching him break off like 50, 70-yard runs almost every
Yeah,
single game. It was
yeah,
great.
he was giving Oklahoma trouble earlier this year when they played them in Norman. I remember that watching that game.
Yeah, no, we were down at half there, and I was not feeling great. We broke off
Yeah,
this 70-yard run. Like, oh, we're coming back. We're winning easily. We
yeah,
got this. It's
yeah,
no problem. And then, the game continued and then didn't go very great. But that's all
yeah,
right.
yeah. It's all right.
Well, speaking of the 12-team playoff, what would be your ideal playoff format? Do you like the 12 team? Would you rather it be smaller or?
I think I like the 12-team format. I think next year I like the fact that all Power Four champs are guaranteed a spot in the playoff. I'm an advocate for that. I think if you win your conference, you deserve to go. Personally, so if let's say 8-5 Duke next year, they could go if they win the whole ACC. I like that idea, but the fact that Notre Dame's getting some special treatment going into next season, I think that's a little I'm not a big fan of that
Yeah,
personally.
we're just catering to Notre Dame and
Catering to
just a
them,
specific rule for them just because they won't join a conference. I don't have any
I
respect for that.
yeah, man. I just join the ACC. I mean, you're in it for every other sport. Just join a conference, prove that you're a 12-team playoff team, rather than having to rely on being in the top 12. And I don't know, this whole situation with Miami and Texas A&M beating them with head to head, it just totally, I don't know, it's all crazy, dude. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think the committee, I will say, I think they got it right. I mean, I think Miami deserved to be in. They beat them head to head, but they
Yep.
completely messed up the process in getting Notre Dame ahead of them for the first, like, what, 4 weeks of the playoff
Yeah,
rankings,
I
and then
will
just
say,
randomly dropping them.
yeah, they led them on pretty bad, keeping them ahead of them the whole time until the very final rankings, when they officially announced the 12 teams. I thought that was pretty wild. You can't,
Yeah,
I
well,
don't think
they
you
shouldn't have
can't
been
lead them
ahead
on
of them
like
in the
that.
first place. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I guess they, just kind of took some more perspectives in the room and watched the game again. But I don't know. It was a wild. But
Yeah,
Miami
that was
proved that
insane.
they proved they belong. I mean, they went to the national championship. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I do want to ask you. You mentioned do you think that like conference champions should get in. So do you think that the Duke last year? Do you think they should have gotten in over Tulane? Is that your thought process?
Um, yeah. Obviously, the rules were different this past season. But yeah, I think if you win your conference, you prove that you belong in the 12-team playoff. I think that shouldn't be like thrown out the water. Like I don't know. I Duke had 5 losses, which is you're like, do they actually belong? But I don't know. I think if you win your conference, they beat a 10-2 Virginia team that was solid this year. I mean, I don't know if Virginia would have won that game, they would have been in. But Tulane had a good year too. They What did they go 11-1, 10-2.
Yeah,
I mean, they proved that they could be in there. But I like the fact that next year there's going to be one group of six champion or the best team in that pool going to the playoff rather
yeah,
than guaranteeing them a spot. Because I think it should just be the 12 best teams, um, in my opinion. You win your conference, you get in, and then outside of that, you just let in the best teams. I don't think we need to be doing any type of favors for anyone. If
yeah.
that
No,
makes
I
sense.
completely agree with you on that. I think
Yeah.
that Tulane should have been in just because like I don't respect the fact that a five-loss team should have gotten in.
Yeah.
But
No. Yeah.
hopefully next year we can avoid this, and hopefully ACC will just fix their tiebreaker rules so that hopefully it's just like if there's a tie
Yeah.
and you didn't play head to head, hopefully they just go to the college football playoff rankings and that's who gets in. So that hopefully like this year it would have been Miami versus Virginia, and we could have avoided this whole conversation and not had an issue there.
It was a very strange situation with the tiebreaker. I honestly don't understand how it works. There's a lot that goes into it clearly. So I don't know. It's all with common opponents and points scored, and it's all very,
Yeah,
it's
no,
all
it makes no
crazy.
sense. I mean, we talk about college football almost every single day, both of us, and neither of us understand how the tiebreaker rule works. I
Yeah.
think that's an issue.
Yeah, it's an issue for sure. I hopefully, you know, now next year it's not going to matter, obviously, with each Power Four champ getting in. But yeah, it's a crazy situation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it makes no sense. I will say I do really like the 12-team playoff, though. I know we got it for an extra year because the Big Ten and the SEC couldn't decide which one they wanted to do. So I'm really happy that we got it for another year. I really like 16 teams. I think I'd be fine with it. I wouldn't love it because it's nice knowing that Notre Dame could have went on a national championship run this year,
Yep.
but they didn't earn their way into the playoff. I think there should be a boundary there where you have to earn your way in. I don't
Yeah.
want every single team that can compete for national championship to get in. I want there to be some teams that can compete for national championship, but they didn't earn it.
Yeah, I think the 16 teams, I personally think it's a little too much. I think 12 is, like you were saying, it's a good amount of teams in there. And yeah, like you win, you're in, you earn your way in by winning. You can't, no shortcuts. I don't know. That's just my thought.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And I think it's interesting now they want to expand it to 16, they want to expand it to 24 teams. And me and you, like we're just fans, we want it to stay at 12 teams. And whenever it was at 4 teams, they would try and tell us, well, all the fans want us to expand it, so we're going to expand it. You don't
Yeah,
really hear that so much from the higher ups in college football, whoever they
right.
really are, but like conference presidents, conference commissioners, they don't really
Yeah,
say, oh, the fans want it. They don't say that much anymore, do they?
yeah, yeah. But like just another thing, is just like you can't please everyone. There's always going to be someone that says they're left out. I think that's another big takeaway too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you expand to the 16, then the 18th and 19th and all those teams are going to be
Someone's
mad that
always
they
going
didn't
to
get in.
complain. Yeah,
Yeah, someone's going to be mad no matter what, and it's going to be
exactly.
impossible to make everyone happy. Someone's going to get left out. Well, I know recently the Big Ten has kind of dominated the college football playoff. What are your thoughts on the Big Ten winning 3 national championships in a row, having a better bowl record this year? Do you think the tide has kind of turned to Big Ten's favor in college football?
I think so. I think the narrative of the SEC being the best conference is it's a little skeptical. Obviously, it's been a very dominant conference for years and years, but I just think it's kind of shifting right now with the Big Ten. They've got 3 winners the past 3 seasons in Michigan, Ohio State, and now Indiana. Um, Yeah, I think it's the tide shifting. And hey, how about the ACC though, man? They kind of proved their worth in bowl season too. Just the whole narrative about the SEC being the best, most dominant conference is just a little. It's all very skeptical. It's all opinionated too. I don't know. But the Big Ten for sure, I think is the best.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think the SEC fans are kind of just upset that it's really shifting towards the Big Ten and to the northern schools. And to your point,
Yeah,
even the ACC, they were a lot better than I thought they would be this year
yeah,
with Miami going to the national
yeah,
championship. I know your Clemson Tigers didn't have a great season, and neither did Florida State, but
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, Clemson down year for them after all the crazy hype they were getting. People were saying we were going to go 16-0. It didn't happen. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the narrative it's totally shifted. ACC went 9-5 in bowl season. The SEC, what did they go like 4-9, 2-7 if you don't count the head to head they had in the college football playoff. Yeah, I mean, and how about Iowa beating Vanderbilt? That was a one to note, especially because Pavia was talking all that smack about how the Big Ten is not where you want to be to compete, and then Iowa just goes out and beats them.
that definitely that warmed my heart a little bit seeing Dago Pavia lose to a Big Ten school.
Yeah,
I do
that
think
was
the
some stuff.
argument there though for SEC schools is kind of interesting because you say, well, Iowa beat Vanderbilt. Well, I think SEC fans could say, well, Vanderbilt's been bad historically for years, and now they're finally good too. So now we just have more teams that are good. So it's kind of interesting, the thoughts process between both sides of the
Yeah.
argument.
Yeah, and there's also the fact that, it's bowl season, guys are transferring, people are going to the draft. Like it doesn't really matter, but it kind of does. Like it's next man up. You got to play the game because everyone's having guys that are opting out, transferring. So, it's
Yeah, I mean, I think like bowl games have lost a lot of their meaning recently, but I think
I
bowl
agree.
games are being looked at differently now. I think they
Mhm.
need to be looked at as just a preview for next season and like seeing your young
100%.
guys that are going to be really good next year. So sure, it might not have an effect on like this past season, but I mean, it's kind of more of an indictment of how good the teams are going to be next year.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it kind of just goes to show like if, they're not as strong without all those guys, then obviously they're going to hit the portal as well. So, yeah.
No, I think it's definitely shifting back in the Big Ten's favor, though. I
Mhm.
really I think it's more because everyone's allowed to pay. I know this has been talked about a lot, but everyone's allowed to pay players now, and I think the SEC was only doing it beforehand, and maybe Ohio State a little bit. Well, now
Yeah.
everyone can do it, and now the bigger, more richer fan bases have the ability to go pay for players and bring those bigger northern schools a lot of good talent.
Yeah, and like I thought it was pretty interesting. I didn't know Mark Cuban was an alumni at Indiana before the playoff. So, he's helping them out a little bit, I think, with NIL in Indiana. Yeah, schools like Indiana, they have one of the biggest alumni in the country. So it's pretty easy from that standpoint to get money and funds. So,
Yeah, I mean, we saw that in the playoff. They outnumbered Alabama at the Rose Bowl like 90% to 10%. They outnumbered Miami in their own building in the national championship game. Like, Indiana has one
crazy,
of the
man.
biggest fan bases out there, and I had no idea.
Yeah, they're very, very passionate about their sports. And the fact that football was good this year, I think really, yeah, it's insane how many people they have going to those games.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Well, I mean, do you think that the national championship next year is going to stay in a Big Ten school, or do you think it's going to be an SEC, ACC maybe?
I think Indiana will definitely be back in the playoff next year. I mean, it's obviously early to say, but they reloaded very well in the portal. Some guys like Josh Hoover, Nick Marsh, he's a stud. Nick Marsh, he's big time. And then they got a guy like I think his name's Turbo Richard from Boston College. He looks exactly like the running backs that Indiana had this past season. Just physicality and physique wise. And yeah, I just think Signetti, I don't know, the fact that they won this year, I think is really just going to set the tone for a team like them moving forward in the portal. Oregon for sure as well with Dante Moore coming back, and they have arguably the best receiver room in the country next year. Um, so I think that's another team. As I think you were mentioning that earlier in your notes, how Oregon could be an early favorite. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Oregon's
then
my pick. I like what they're doing a lot. I know they're bringing back
yeah,
Dante Moore. They got DeCorian Moore, Evan Stewart back. And they're
yeah,
going to be really good on the offense side of the ball. I
yeah.
know
Now it's
last year they only returned one guy from their offense last year, and it was their center. And now they have a
Yeah.
ton of guys coming back. I think Mateo Uiagalelei is coming back next year. I like what Oregon's doing a lot. But to your point, Indiana is going to be really good. Josh Hoover, Nick Marsh, like you were talking about, he's really, really good. I got a first look at that whenever we would play Michigan State the past couple of years. He was the only player out there that looked any sort of decent. So I really like what Nick Marsh is doing. He's really, really, really good. I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
don't know
going to
if
be a
you're
really
familiar
big
with
pickup.
Nick Harbor. Yeah, Nick Harbor for South Carolina. He was one of the faster receivers in the country. He's a big dude. He's like him, but Big Ten.
Yeah, no,
So
Nick Harbor, I mean, he's insane. I
yeah,
remember watching him out of high school, and he's running like what sub like close to 10-second 100-meter dashes, and he
yeah,
was like, yeah, no, they're going to play edge rusher. He ended up playing wide receiver in
yeah.
college, which makes a lot more sense. But man, he is a special talent. He's really
He's a
good.
dog. Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
back
I
to
like what Ohio State's doing for sure. I think they're going to do really good
yeah.
next year. I'm kind of nervous
Mhm.
like that from a Michigan fan. You know, you got Jeremiah Smith coming back. You got Julian Sain
Yeah.
coming back. They're losing a lot on defense, though, so I'm kind of worried
Mhm.
about how they're going to have to replace an Arvell Reed, you know, those kind of guys. I think Ohio State's going to be pretty good. I think what Texas is doing, I like what Texas is doing a lot. Cam Coleman is going to be there next year. I think that's going to be a huge get. I think Cam
Yeah.
Coleman and Ryan Wingo is one of the probably the best wide receiver cores in the country, in my opinion.
I totally agree. Cam Coleman's a stud, best receiver in the portal. Wingo's been with Texas now. It's going to be his third year. So he's going to be, yeah, them two together is insane. And then obviously they have Hollywood Smothers and Raleek Brown from their respected programs, Arizona State and NC State, two of the best running backs, arguably in their conferences. They're both going to be together at Texas, which is pretty exciting. But
Yeah, no.
I think a couple other teams that I think could make like I think LSU is going to be legit next year with all the people they brought in. Brought in like 9 receivers for Sam Levitt, and they already reloaded their quarterback room for the next 3 or 4 years after Levitt with Longstreet and their Elon transfer they got coming in.
Yeah, no,
Um,
LSU is going to be really good next year.
yeah,
I'm kind of
and
curious. They're kind of getting slept on a little bit after this last season, but I think they're
yeah,
definitely a playoff contender for sure.
yeah, because they got T.J. Daughtery, they got Stefan Green from Clemson, they got Prince Will from Ole Miss as well, and they got Jordan Seaton on the O line, the best lineman in the portal. Um, but I think Miami is going to go back to the playoff as well. I think that's a
Really.
team that could really shake things up again. Yeah, I'm really high on Miami's offense next year with
Yeah, no, I think Miami is going to be really good. I think Darian Mensah going there is going to be a really, really big get for
yeah.
them. I
Mhm.
just question how are they going to replace, you know, the really good edge rushers there? I mean, Ruben Bain, Akeem Mesidor, how are they going to replace those guys? Do you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, it's I don't know, man. Those guys are freaks. The U's defense this year was nasty. It felt like a little taste of the old U that we were used to seeing years ago. But I think they brought in Damon Wilson from Missouri, one of the best edges in the portal. He's going to replace Ruben Bain. I don't know if he's going to be quite as good as him, but I think he's going to replace him fairly well. And they went out and got a couple other guys in the portal as well. And so I think defensively they might slip a little bit, but I think they're going to be just as good next year with their offensive firepower coming in.
Yeah,
So
and I think that Damon Wilson guy from Mizzou, he's like a borderline first round talent. I think he's going to be able to show that off really well at Miami. I like what he's doing. So I have a lot of respect for Mario Cristobal and what they're building there at Miami. I think
I
they're
do
going to be really
too.
good again next year.
Yeah, yeah. He finally kind of figured things out after a few years. Cam. It's a shame Cam Ward missed a year. He was a year too early. I know Carson Beck had a good year, but if they had Cam Ward, that would have been scary.
Yeah, if they had Cam Ward, I don't think they lose 2 games, and I think they probably win the national championship if everything's the same there in that game against
Yeah,
Indiana.
yeah. And don't get me wrong, Carson Beck's a great quarterback, but I just think Cam Ward's a little more athletic and electric, with
Yeah,
the football than he is.
yeah.
Um,
There's a reason why Cam Ward went #1 overall in the draft, and Carson Beck
yeah,
isn't being talked about at all. So.
yeah, yeah.
Well, who's a team that you think that has been slept on a little bit for next year? Is there a team you think might be able to make the college football playoff that not a lot of people are listening to right now?
Yeah, well, I think this is a little bit of a hot take. As I mentioned earlier, Oklahoma State, I think, is a team that could, I don't know, they had 2 wins last year, and they brought a top 3 quarterback in the portal in Drew Mestemaker to their roster. So I think that is an insanely big addition, obviously. And then, Caleb Hawkins, he'll do well anywhere. at running back. And then they got Wyatt Young, one of the best receivers in the American Conference. They got Justin Boak from Illinois. They got Chris Barnes from Wake Forest. I mean, their receiver room's going to be pretty stacked, I think. And defense, they brought in like 54 guys from the portal, or maybe 51. I may be mistaken, but it's a lot of guys that they brought in. But they lost a lot too. So
Yeah, no, I really like what Oklahoma State's doing. We talked about that a little bit earlier in the pod, but
yeah,
yeah, no,
yeah,
I love what Eric Morris is building there. I like Houston. Houston's been really good. They went 10
yeah,
and 2 last year. Not a lot of people talked about it. I know they have the 5-star coming in, Keyshawn Henderson from Houston. He's staying home. I think
yeah,
he's going to be really, really, really good. And I think they have like a top 10 transfer portal class as well. So I like what Houston's
yeah,
doing there.
yeah. And they also got, I believe they have Connor Weekman again at quarterback, unless
That's right. Yeah.
I believe he's coming back. So he's a guy that was at Texas A&M before Houston. He had a great year, actually. He played really well. Um, yeah, I don't disagree with you. I think Houston could turn some heads next year in the Big 12 for sure.
Yeah, no, I really like what Houston's doing there. And then Baylor is another team that I thought I really liked. I know they're kind of a big boomer bust team with DJ Lagway
Yeah,
now. I think they're either going to be really good or they're going to be really bad with Dave Aranda.
yeah, I agree. I was really high on Sawyer Robertson this past offseason, given the fact that he played really well the previous season before this one, leading into this year. I was really high on then Bryson Washington at running back as well. I thought they were going to potentially be a front runner in the Big 12. That obviously did not pan out, but yeah, they're going to be a team to monitor for sure. It'll be a boomer bust, like you said.
Yeah, I think I'm really excited to see what they do there in Baylor. Yeah,
Yeah,
DJ Lagway, again, he's boomer bust. Like he just either throws huge crazy plays or he just throws an interception, throws 5 against LSU last year. So
yeah,
I think he's going to be able. I think he'll be able to really take advantage of Big 12 defenses because I don't think they're quite as good as SEC. So and then Dave Aranda, he's coached for his job at this point. He's on the hot seat going into the next year. So I think they kind of have to do it, right? They have to win because if they don't, they're going to clean house there at Baylor.
yeah, I agree. But I think with how well Sawyer Robertson did and the progression he made throughout his career, I think Lagway's got something good going on, like being at Baylor. I think they're going to kind of utilize him well. But they're both kind of different quarterbacks. Lagway's got a lot of physical talent, like physique wise, he's one of the best there is in the country. So he's got a great arm talent as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's really exciting what's going on in Baylor. Another team I think everyone knows about them, right? But USC, they were
Yeah,
9-3 last year, and not a lot of people talked about how well they ran the ball last year. And I think if they're able to continue that, and I know they lost Anton Lynn to Penn State, but they brought in a good defensive coordinator. I really like what USC's doing. I think they can compete for even a national championship next year, not just the playoffs.
yeah, they brought in Gary Patterson as their new defensive coordinator, which is that's a big addition for their team. And I like Jaden Mayava at quarterback. I think he's a top 10 quarterback maybe in the country next year, depending on, how they do, obviously. But, and they had like the best recruiting class for this next season coming in. So I think that's going to be it's going to be a big season for them next year in the Big Ten.
Yeah, no, they're going to be really good. Jaden Mayava's coming back, like you said. He's really, really, really good. Yeah, no, I'm excited about what USC's doing. They're finally playing defense, and they're finally recruiting at the level that we thought that they should be recruiting at whenever NIL came
Yeah.
about. Everyone was like, well, USC's in LA. They're going to be able to pay almost anybody. And then they recruited like top 20, top 25. They've been great. So,
Yeah.
no, I think USC's finally going to be able to reach that potential as long as they keep believing in that coaching staff that they have there.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. Yeah. I think they're going to be pretty solid next year.
Yeah, definitely excited to see what they do.
Mhm.
Who's your Heisman favorite next year? I know we just talked about Jane Mayava. He's going to be really good. Got CJ Carr out there with Notre Dame. We talked about them earlier. Who's your
Yeah.
Heisman favorite going into next year?
Well, like I was telling you with I think Darren Mensa is my favorite going into next season. I really like what he did with the Duke last year. I know he had Cooper Barcade out at receiver, but he's going to Miami with him. And he's got Malachi Toney, Drevius Jacobs from South Carolina, another guy that'll be a big role player on that offense, maybe like a CJ Daniels kind of guy. And then obviously you have Mark Fletcher running back. So I don't know. He threw for 34 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last year with the Duke team that was, they weren't great. They had 5 losses. Not a lot of firepower offensively, I would say, other than Barkley. They had a good running back as well, but I don't know. The sky's the limit for them next year, I think, and I think he's gonna have a huge, huge year, Darian Mensah.
Yeah, he's going to be really good there, especially with those receivers bringing Cooper Bargate over. And, Malachi Tony, he was the best freshman receiver last year. He's like a Tyreek Hill version of college. Like, he's
Yep,
insane to watch.
had over 1,000 receiving yards too. He played really well in the playoffs. No one could stop him.
Yeah, you just got to get that guy the ball in open space, and he'll make at least two or three guys miss. It's so fun to watch,
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah,
for sure.
I just really like Mensa there. I think they're going to be solid. But I could see a guy like Sam Levitt having a huge year. Um, it there's just Josh Hoover even. I don't. There's just a lot of different. I mean, Julian Sand will probably be back in the Heisman conversation too. I mean, there's just so many different guys that can be in that position. I feel like.
For sure, especially Julian Sand. I mean, he's got Jeremiah Smith there. I really like
Yeah.
C.J. Carr. I think he showed a lot of
Yep.
mobility in that Texas A&M game that they had.
Yep.
He was able to move around, which is, I think, very important whenever you're talking about the Heisman. But then they
Yep.
added Quincy Porter and Mylan Graham, two 5 stars from Ohio State. So I think he's
Yeah.
finally going to have some weapons out there that allow him to
Yeah.
make even more plays. So I'm
Hmm.
really looking forward to see what C.J. Carr can do over in Notre Dame.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I really like CJ Carr. He was a first first year starter coming in over Kenny Minchie to replace Riley Leonard after their Natty run last year. I think CJ Carr is due for a big season. He had a really good year. I mean, I know he didn't beat A&M and Miami, but they lost by a total of 4 points in like both of those games, or maybe even less, 2 points maybe if you looking back at the scores. But yeah, I think CJ Carr is due for a big season. He impressed me with Marcus Freeman last year.
Yeah, no, they're going to be really good. And Marcus Freeman's coming back. I know he had a lot of interest from the NFL there, so I'm really,
Yeah,
really glad that he's come back. He's one of the best coaches in the country.
yeah, a lot of NFL buzz, but yeah, he's staying. He made it clear too multiple times that he's turning down any type of job to stay there. So
Yeah, no, that's really good. It's really good for college football in general to have coaches like that because, I mean, you thought that Notre Dame was at their potential with Brian Kelly, like they were kind of hitting their ceiling, and then
right,
Marcus Freeman comes in there and brings them even farther to a national championship game. So I really
yep,
like what Marcus Freeman's doing there. I think that's huge that he's staying at Notre Dame.
yeah, totally agree. I think they're going to be back in the conversation again for the playoff. They don't have Jeremiah Love, or I don't know if they have Jadarian Price. Is he returning? I'm not sure.
I think he went to the draft with Jeremiah Love.
Okay. Well, and, if anything, they always have solid running backs. They're going to be fine, but they should be right back in the conversation. Their defense should be good too.
Yeah, I'm really excited about what Notre Dame can do.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, I only got one last question for you, and so to get us out of here on a high note, what's your boldest prediction for the 2026 season?
Okay. I'm a Clemson guy. I'm going to give a little bold prediction for the Tigers. I think a hot take would be to say that they would be back in the college football playoff. The team, Tom Allen emphasized he needed to use the portal this offseason, and he got like 9 defenders from solid programs, a couple freshmen that have a lot of potential, like London Merritt from Colorado, and some other guys from some lower schools like Howard. We got a defensive tackle from the JUCO level, Andy Bergia, I think that's his name. But yeah, we filled in a lot of gaps at our defensive positions, which I think is great. Offensively, we stayed in house at quarterback, which I'm not a big fan of, but I think Chad Morris at our new quarter, he used to be at Clemson before, averaging about 30 points a game under Taj Boyd, if you're familiar with his name. It's a little bit of a different era now, but I think he could be a sleeper coordinator in the country next year for sure. But there's a lot of uncertainty there still. I Chris Vizina will probably be the starter. He's got some good arm talent. I'm not 100% sold on him, but
Right.
I think if they can get the ball rolling with him, receivers were very talented with Wesco and Moore, and we brought in Chris Johnson Jr. from SMU, one of the fastest players in the country, at running back, and we have Gideon Davidson back as well. I think we could be a team to watch. It's way too early to say. And,
It
we had a
is.
down year. I think our guys are going to be hungry to have a big season next year, try and get back into it.
But for sure, I like that Dabo Sweeney's finally using the transfer portal. And I think he's kind of having like this big midlife crisis because he brought in like that Luke Farrelly guy who ended up going back to Ole Miss, and that's a whole thing. But I like that he's calling out Ole Miss and trying to see what he can do within the rules of the NCAA and what they do and what they don't enforce. So I think what Dabo Sweeney's really is just like, okay, I give up. I'm gonna have to do what I have to do to win and keep my job. So I think Dabo Sweeney's gonna build something really cool there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, his career is kind of up in the air if he doesn't use the portal, and he, went out and he's rolling with the punches now, got like 9 guys. I think, it took him a little while to kind of adapt to that mindset, but I think it's going to pay off for sure. I'm excited to see how the team does next year. So
yeah, I would be too if I was a Clemson fan. I like what they're doing there. Finally using the transfer portal, and that's really important for sure.
Yeah.
I don't really have a specific team, but I think that the Big Ten is finally going to have more teams in the playoff than the SEC. I think there's countless teams that you can think of in the Big Ten that might be able to make the playoffs. You got Oregon, Ohio State, Indiana. I think those teams are pretty certain that they're going to be in. Then you throw in a Michigan, a USC. I think there's a lot of teams out there. Even Iowa could make it in there. I really like what the Big Ten has going on for them, and I think they're finally going to get more playoff teams into the playoff than the SEC for the first time.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm big on Michigan next year with Whittingham. I think there's a lot of upside there, and obviously Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State. Washington has DeMond Williams again next year, so that's another team I think.
Yeah, they do. They did keep him.
Yeah, after all that chaos, yeah, I think he's a very good quarterback. They had what was it like? They go 8-4, 9-4 after the bowl game, so there's some upside there. Yeah, Iowa, great defense. I think Mark Gronowski may be back next year. He was solid for them this past season. But yeah, definitely USC as well.
Yeah, and I even like what Penn State's doing there. I mean, they brought a ton of guys over from Iowa State. Matt Campbell was a really, really, really good head coach. He had interest from NFL jobs in the past. I think what Matt Campbell's doing there at Penn State, they're going to be a contender again as well.
Yeah, they got Rocco Beckton at quarterback for them too. It took a lot of guys from Iowa State. They have a very favorable schedule next year. They don't have to play Indiana, Oregon, or Ohio State. And their hardest teams they're playing are USC at home, which I would think is a whiteout game. They're playing Michigan on the road, which is a little concerning, I guess. But other than that, they would maybe go 10-2, 9-3, worst case scenario in his first season with Penn State. Call that a win.
Oh, I would too. I would really like what Penn State's doing there. They got a lot. They got all of Iowa State's top guys, and they threw in a few more. And I know they got Rocco Beck, like you talked about. He's a baller. Like he just goes out there and wins games. So I think he's going to be really good for them as well.
Yeah, he's a baller. It wasn't the best season this past year with Iowa State, but we saw the previous year when they went to the Big 12 championship the potential he has. I'm excited to watch him.
Yeah, Penn State's going to be really good this next year. Well, that's all I got for you today, man. I really appreciate you coming on here. Why don't you tell some people where they can find you at?
Yeah, man. I'm Saturday's Best on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. My handle is Saturday's Best Sports. But yeah, man, just very passionate about college football. I know Drew's the same way. Go check us out, man. We're very motivated. We love talking college ball. So
Yep. Yeah. Sounds like that's both of our favorite things to do right now. So
yeah, man.
Can't thank you enough, man, for coming on here.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, man. Of course, anytime.
Yeah, well, that's going to do it for this episode of Scoring from the 50. Again, huge thanks to Will for coming on, and I'll see you guys again next week.